Okay, it is December 1st. Going to bring you a Lake of the Ozarks fishing report, the most updated report we can give you from what we've seen this last, I don't know, probably a month since we've done the last report, and then kind of where we're at now and where we're headed here for the next couple weeks. You know, we've been on the water quite a bit, had several different things.
Hunting.
You know, of course, Denise has been hunting quite a bit. Got her a nice 8-pointer yesterday.
Oh.
Took that in to get processed today, and all that snow and
Snow today.
fun traffic out there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know, the pattern and things are really changing now. We've kind of was stuck in a, man, I was saying early winter, late fall pattern. We were just kind of swirling there for a while, you know, catching several keepers, you know, each time we went out. Just the big ones were a little elusive there, you know. Not that it's really changed, but there are some better fish being brought in just this past weekend.
Yeah.
Those 2 7-pounders brought in the Marie annual tournament that Anglers in Action put on. Justin Lukemeyer and his partner had a little over 20 pounds, so haven't really seen a 20-pound sack. Old Kinderhook, Roger had one, you know, but there haven't been a lot of them. You know, it's been not consistent. Anything over 15 to 17 was a pretty solid bag, and we're going to start seeing that change now as this water temp is cooling. You know, we were stuck in the upper 50s for quite a while. It just kind of got there and hung there. So, you know, all that does is keep the fish really scattered out. You know, some of the fish, you know, were on main lake flat still, about 3/4 way back in creeks. There was some main lake stuff going on. They're just kind of all over the place. So it was kind of hard to, you know, to really kind of settle down on a pattern and really stick with that throughout the day. Which now that water temp's dropping, you know, let's see, the water temp now is, we're going to say 52 to 55. You know, some places it's going to be a little cooler. Way up the rivers, river arms, or way in the backs of some creeks, it's going to really cool down. And that's going to really start moving these fish and locking them into more of a wintry bank, more, you know, steeper banks, channel swing banks, you know, and that can be anywhere, main lake, halfway back in the creeks, or all the way in the back of the creeks. But they'll generally start relating to just more steeper banks that, you know, these fish can go up and down with barometric pressure or cold snaps like we're having right now these last couple of days.
Yeah.
Has really plummeted that water temp. And when you get that drastic change like that, that really almost kind of shocks these fish and really pushes them and makes them kind of relate to where they're headed, more wintry stuff. You know, as we have a little warm up here next week maybe, you know, or throughout the winter, you know, they'll venture at the end of these channels and get maybe on some flats, or flatter stuff, or at the end of channels. But you know, as we have these cold snaps like this, and as we get into winter, they're going to relate more to just steeper stuff, bigger rock stuff, more ledgy stuff. You know, like that just kind of a flat ledge rock that's solid, hard rock. You know, they like those, and they like the steeper 45 degree banks. You know, it's kind of just a textbook style bank. You know, baits that we've been throwing that we can still kind of throw a little bit. You know, Topwater's definitely not overwit. You know, Choppos, buzzbaits. You know, just your big 3/4 ounce crockett or head knocker buzzbait, black gold. You can see this one is getting what I call getting right. You know, as far as the being tuned, squealing, the right pitch. You can see that head's wore off there. The blade's kind of getting scratched up. It's getting it's just getting right. You know, I like them as the
Just
older
a
they get.
little movement, it's squeaking. I can hear
Right.
it. Just a little.
Yeah, it
Just
don't
barely,
just moving it. It's
Yeah.
kind of got a squealy. You know, they just get better the older they get. So, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to burn them, these topwaters right now. You just creep it along. That's what's good about the 3/4 ounce that Crocketter makes, and it's got that big blade on it. You can really creep that thing along. You know, I said that water temps in the low to mid 50s. That's perfect. I mean, they're still going to be really aggressive. They'll get in the fall all the way down till that water temp's 48. I'm gonna throw a buzzbait. I'm just gonna slow it down a little bit and hope for a bite, because it's gonna be a bigger bite the later you get. You know,
Yeah.
that Chopo. How do you
This
work
is,
that now? You think?
This is a the Chopo, it's the 120, so it's the largest one they make, as I hit the rod. We're looking at getting it as right on the rocks, but not on the rocks, right up next to the bank. Your big chunk rock, you can fish this main lake. You can go halfway back in your pockets, and you know, you can literally fish kind of the corners of the docks. You can literally also go underneath. You gotta be basically able to take a little challenge of a cast a lot of times, getting underneath those cables, which we don't like doing with big baits like this, but a lot of times that's where the fish are. So getting underneath those cables and slow retrieving it back.
And that's why we're throwing on 50-pound braid, so you can throw over them cables, under them catwalks. You know, for the last several weeks, the majority of fish have been under these catwalks and back in there where pretty high pressured fish. You know, you got to get back in there to get them. Now, as we get a little further, you know, into, yeah, I'm gonna say not further. Well, probably say early winter. That don't sound right, but either way, late fall into winter. For the next couple weeks before that water temp gets real low, for whatever reason, you'll see some of these fish just show up on just open banks. You know, you can just run open banks with the Chopo or that big buzz bait. You know, big swim baits. Your mag drafts are going to be good. The big glide baits like this this shad, just in a bone color. That's the big one. You know, got them big eyes on it. You can work it, you know, throw it right up on the bank. Like she was saying, you almost have to hit the rocks so it's imitating these big gizzards, and they're up there and they're hanging out. You know, they might be a foot or two down, just off of the bank, but you got to get your baits right up on the bank and then retrieve it out, because these big fish, they get up there and they just post up out there. They might suspend out there a little ways, and they might just roam the bank, and they're waiting for this big shad to come off of the bank. That makes it an easy prey for them. Right. So that the big shad, and then this new, I call it the new one, the smaller shad. I don't know what this is, a 3-inch, I think. You can see how much smaller that is, but that thing really, it's got a totally different action. It's a little quicker action, a little more reaction bite probably. It's a little easier for them to chase down and grab compared to that big one.
It's a great bait that you can see. You can literally watch your action and watch.
Right,
the
with the bone color. The bone color, you can really watch that bait in the water and how it's reacting. You know, according to how you're reeling, if you're starting to stop it or if you're reeling it slow. You can really watch these bone colors, the action, to see if you want it quick, if you just want it gliding real slow, if you want to glide it to a stop. You know, that's where the bone color is really good. You know, we're throwing on 17, 20-pound fluorocarbon, you know, on just a medium action reel like a 7.5. Seems to work real good on those. Same banks, the exact same banks. Big main lake points, bluff ends are starting to come into play a little more. any big rock, steeper banks. You can catch fish obviously off of those banks, but that's where the majority of them are gonna be. Whether it's got docks on it, don't have docks, it doesn't really matter. It's more of the bank style and the fish's ability to move shallow and move deep pretty quickly without swimming a long ways. Baits we haven't been throwing a whole lot, but they're going to start really coming into play now. I see Denise has one out here. Are your rock crawlers and wigglers. So, what color you got there?
I have this is Stone Cold. When you talk about the banks that you're maybe going to be fishing this on, I think shallower, your flatter, shallower secondaries. I don't think you're going to be main lake. It's basically back in those flatter.
Not necessarily flat, but a little steepness, but flatness to where that bait will dig.
This bait's digs in like it needs to. Good color.
Stone Cold. Usually in a little bit clearer water. Like to throw that a little bit dirtier, a little more stained. Cloudier day, I like that red. This has a dark back, that red, sides, stripes, kind of an orange belly. These baits, especially now and as we get further into winter, you're going to want to kind of parallel these banks, some of these steeper banks. Get your boat right up next to it and make cast down parallel. So you get that thing down there. If they're in 5 foot, 7 foot, 10 foot, and you can parallel once you figure out what depth they're in and just work that bait in that depth and kind of bounce it off them rocks, let it hit, stop it, start it. These crankbaits, these rock crawlers, the wiggle warts, you can work these, down, 42 degrees, 43, 44 degrees, 46 is perfect. And just, you can work it really, really slow. Right now, you can steady retrieve it. I got this on this Abu Garcia reel, kind of a new one I've been trying out. I got it up at Bryant's, Osage Outdoors. It's a 6-to-1. Usually I throw it on like a 5, 7, 5, 5. This is a 6-1. It's working really good. Pretty cheap reel too. I think it was $100. I was just kind of trying it out and pretty impressed with it for $100. But got it spooled up with 12-pound. This is monofilament. I like monofilament on my crankbaits. I know a lot of people like fluorocarbon. I like it to give a little bit. When I hit a rock, I like it to sponge a little bit. Fish grabs it. I like a little bit of give in the line along with the rod. This is a medium action. Not so much now because they're still inhaling these baits pretty aggressively. But as we get colder water, they'll kind of nip at them, and you'll get them in that back hook only. And you just got one of these treble hooks in there, so you really want a little bit of line stretch. You want rod stretch. Maybe lighten up your drag a little bit, so when they do pull, it's going to give and it's not going to pull them hooks out of their mouth. But that bait is really coming on. I would say this week it's probably started. We haven't even hit the prime yet for the rock crawler, so it's an extremely easy bait to throw out there. Parallel your banks, maybe 45, 60 degree until maybe you catch a couple. And if they're pretty close to the bank, then you can scoot up there, or if they're a little further off.
And like you said, it's a great way to determine exactly what kind of water, where they are in that water.
The depth.
Yeah,
the depth of
bait needs
trying
to
figure out where they're at first, and then you kind of parallel and just concentrate on that depth. So the crankbait is probably. This time of year, it's one of the better baits to just go out and throw and cover a lot of water with it. And you're paying attention to the wiggle and the vibration. A lot of times, as it gets colder, but even now, if they're not really aggressive, you're just going to feel that wiggle stop on you, and it's just kind of going to load up on you when a fish grabs it, compared to a really hard hit, which, you know, right now they'll still hit it pretty hard, but a lot of time, most of your bites is you're just reeling it and you're feeling that wiggle pretty good, and then that wiggle stops. It feels like you're just dragging in a leaf or a wet towel or something, and that's when the fish has grabbed it, and then, you know, he's trying to maybe spit it out and not pulling on it too much. So, you know, we got there.
We got the stick bait, jerk bait season is upon us. This bait, right now, the way you're working your bait is your retrieve is going to be a whole lot faster at this point than what it is when it's in the 40s and the you know. So your retrieve is what's gonna change. You got to work it pretty fast and really kind of see again, kind of like where your rock crawler is getting your bites. You're looking for those suspended fish, and this is main lake, halfway back. And even into the shallow.
Right, windy, you know, windier points, windier banks, anywhere, you know, it's, you know, obviously when the wind's blowing into the bank, that tends to make those fish a little more active. The bass are a little more active in those areas. And like she's saying right now, you know, that water's still plenty warm. You can work that thing pretty quick. And like what we had with this cold snap, a lot of times these fish that were really shallow, they'll just back out, you know, they'll back out, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 foot off of the bank, and they'll just suspend down there in that water column that hasn't really been overly affected by this cold snap. You know, you get down there 6, 8 foot, this cold snap's not affecting that water yet, you know, like it does up in that 2 foot of water. So those fish will back out there and they'll just suspend down there to where that water temp's not being overly affected by the cold snap. And that's where, like she's saying, working that jerkbait out, you know, get your boat pretty far off of the bank and work that thing out there all the way out to the boat until you get a couple bites, you know, and try to see where they're at. You know, as far as letting it sit right now, you can let it sit a little bit, but right now ain't really the time. You're kind of working it, you're still looking for a reaction bite. And these fish are still plenty aggressive, you know.
I do think it's a good bait to think about. You do kind of have the leaves and all that with your rock crawlers, and you're gonna be snagging, you know, a lot of leaves. But that's the rock crawler is great because you're getting those fish that are right on the bottom, right feeding, and then suspended a little bit, but your jerkbait is really going to kind of get those suspended fish that
they're just in a transition. They're kind of, you know, they'll back off, they'll hang out there. You know, not to say you can't catch them up out of bank, because you can, you know. Most of the leaves are done falling, so we still got them blown in the
and they'll come up. They'll come up if they see this. It's surprising if you watch on Live Scope how they react to it. So that's good to be watching.
Spinnerbait's still kind of like the rock crawler. It's catching them. It hasn't hit its prime yet. I'm gonna say when that water gets down 50 degrees, 48, I'd say 46 to 52. Is just ideal for your late fall, early winter spinnerbait. A big spinnerbait with a big blade on it, something shad color, and you're working windy points, windy rocks, windy banks, you know, bigger rocks, ledgier rocks. The same thing we're keen on with all these baits. But if it's real windy, a spinnerbait can catch some really big fish right now. And another thing with it, like right now, until that water gets down, I'm going to say below 48, you can almost wake the spinnerbait right now, just below the surface where it's leaving a wake, off of some of these bluff points, bluff ends, steeper banks. and just catch some of the monsters that are hanging out there. You know, it's been kind of deep, and they're coming up and feeding on these big gizzards. You know, spinnerbait is one of the best fall, early winter baits there is out there. You know,
retrieve is huge.
Yeah, retrieve, exactly. Same with the jerkbait, rock crawl. You got to figure out what retrieve they want, how aggressive they are. So you kind of got to, I don't know, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes with each retrieve, and try to switch it up until you figure out what they want. Because obviously, this time of year, they can be extremely picky, and especially as you go into winter, just changing speeds, like the cadence on your jerk baits or the spinner baits, you might want to slow roll it right on the bottom, a foot below the surface, just out of sight. You just kind of got to switch it up until you see what's going to cause these fish to react. And that can change daily, if not by the hour, you know. Let's see, other baits. Obviously, we're getting into jigs, slowing down. Same type of banks, little channel banks, little steep banks. You know, brush doesn't hurt nothing, obviously, but you know, we've been throwing half ounce quite a bit, but I'm gonna start switching it up from like a what do you got there? Half with a peck of chunk.
Ozarks craw, pack of chunk on there. Yep.
Ozarks craw, you know, that's a full size jig with a bigger trailer on it. Compared to like this one here, as things start slowing down, getting colder, I'm gonna rely more on like this here. This is just your Crappie Gator 3/8 ounce zapper. You see I got it spidered up, and I got it trimmed way down. I've got the weed guard trimmed back, and I got just a small little ring crawl in the back of that. And that's when I'm gonna start slowing down, you know, with maybe 12-pound test line, 12, 15, even 10 as we get into the winter. And I'm just gonna work that thing really slow, just crawl along the bottom, just start it, stop it. Sometimes just let it sit there on a little tight line, you know, barely move that thing to get you a lot of bites, you know, if they're not overly aggressive. You know, the little finesse jig is just now coming into play, and this is all winter. Until it's ice, I'm throwing this little jig to get me some bites, as it's you know, it's just a good winter bait. Obviously, talking about winter baits
and trimming all that skirt off literally just slows your bait down.
Well, that's the profile. It's just changing the profile. Just a small, subtle meal for them. You know, as it gets colder, obviously they're not going to eat as much or as often. So just a small, little, subtle bait is going to generate you some bites. You know, other winter baits. Obviously, it's already happening. I've heard a lot of people already catch them on the Alabama rig. This past weekend, there was a lot of fish caught on them, and it's only going to get better. You know, this is just a Flash Mob Junior. There's a lot of different baits out right now. That Hog Farmer's a really good one. That Cellular's a good one. You know, like I said, this little Flash Mob Junior, that's a good one. You know, the baits on it, I usually throw just like these little reactions. There's so many swim baits out nowadays, but like the Little Dipper, Pearl Blue, and then Sexy Shad, and the Reaction Innovations. That's probably my favorites. They're just have some good action, good colors. Throw them. We're always throwing them on the Crappie Gator Swimbait jig head.
Pretty durable.
Really durable. They've got two styles. They've got the heavy hook, just open water, you know, and then you got the wire hook for fishing over brush, around the big dock cables, anywhere where you think you might get hung up. The wire hook, obviously, we're throwing on that with that braid. So you've heard us say before, you get those hung up, you just point your rod right at it, just pull it real slow, and that hook will open up enough, it'll come loose, bring it in, fix your hook, you know, just bend your hook back and go back to fishing, you know. You know, that's the setup there. We're throwing that on You can either finesse it, I call it finesse it, on 20, 25 pound fluorocarbon or on braid. I like throwing it on braid because I usually, when I do throw it, I want to get right next to that brush, maybe hit that brush. I want to get around them big dock cables. Anywhere I might get it hung up, you know, obviously I'm going to try to watch it on a live scope and get it right down next to that structure, maybe tick it or see, you know, sometimes these fish, they'll come, you know, 5, 6, 8 foot out of the brush pile to grab them. Some days you got to just creep it right over the top. So, you know, obviously that's coming into play. It's only going to get better throughout the winter. So you can see right now with what we've already showed you, everything's in play right now. It's still everything in play. Just a couple new things like the A-rigs into play, maybe the rock crawlers a little more, but everything else
rock crawler and your jerkbait
is still in play for sure. The only thing that really changes now is, I'm going to say, your bank style, like we said, you know, ledgy stuff, bigger rocks, steeper stuff, or like she was saying, in the flats, you get in the back of these creeks, 3/4, you know, maybe all the way in the back, so where your boat's sitting in maybe 15 foot of water and you're throwing up to 8 foot of water on these flats. A lot of these fish will just go to the back of these flats and they'll just hang out there, you know, and, you know,
seems lazy.
Seems, you know, 8 to
Yes, or something.
12 foot of water, and they'll just lay on the bottom. And you can bring any of these baits by them. A lot of shad are still back there. The crappie are starting to school up. Open water crappie. You know, if there's big schools of crappie back there, big schools of shad, the bass are going to be back there with them.
Yeah.
So I see you got the Wacky rig. You caught a few on that the other day still.
Yes. This is definitely when you're, if you've, I don't want to say exhausted, or you've done your topwater, you've done your crankbaits or your jerkbaits, and then you've decided to, the fish have been moving closer to the docks underneath those cables and catwalks. This, you can't ever forget about throwing a Wacky rig. This is the 1/8 ounce. It's got that 1/0 hook. This is a great bait. You just have to adjust as far as throwing underneath those cables. If you have a small area between the dock and the bank, you're going to throw, you can do probably 1 or 2 casts, but as you have a longer gap between the shore and the dock, you're going to have to maybe figure out exactly where you're targeting. But this is just a great, on a spinning rod, you can just skip this thing way underneath the dock. So it's just a great bait to use, and it'll only get better.
Yep. So crappie's been good. Crappie, you know, crappie's just kind of stays good, I think. We're seeing a lot of stuff out in the open water, fishing a lot of bluffs, trees along bluffs, bridge columns have been good. Obvious brush piles, you know, and anywhere from 10 to 30 foot of water. You know, with the crappie, kind of the same setup all year. I got 2 setups. I've got one with the little easy shiner shad, little 3-inch easy shiner, rig it on a little 16th ounce head or 1/8 ounce head, depending on how deep. And that's kind of for casting past these brush piles, around brush piles, open water crappie. We're throwing that, letting it get down to them, just swimming it by them. And then so I've always got that set up, and then I've got a setup for shooting docks. Like this is a little 16th ounce, and some days we'll go down to a 32nd. And I'm just throwing that living the dream, little crappie jig, little straight tail. This one is my favorite color. It's called Frozen. It's kind of a transparent with a blue, kind of a blue turquoise. Man, I just have a lot of good luck with that. And it just, you know, those baits like that will shoot a lot better than like that Swimbait, that little Swimbait. You can really shoot them in there, shoot them back underneath the swim platforms, alongside the boat lifts, if there's a boat up on a lift, underneath them boats, anywhere you can get it in on a real dark hole, hard to get spot. That's where the bigger ones are hanging out. A lot of bigger fish are starting to show up here the last couple weeks for crappie, so that's only going to get better. Really looking forward to that. Crappie fishing is just so much fun. In the wintertime, you can, it's not like, bass fishing so much. You find you a big school and you can pretty much just sit on top of that school and work on them school, whether it be on a brush pile or in a boat slip. They'll move a little bit and you can go around the other side and work on them for a while. As you work on them, it kind of pushes them. You just kind of work on one school for a while and usually come up with a pretty good limit of fish.
But I think you can do kind of a combination of either one. I think you can concentrate on maybe fishing some docks, but then crappie has gotten to where you can fish out in the open. If they're schooling out in the open, that's just a great
kind of
way to
what you want to do. Sometimes it's fun just to go out and shoot and see how far you can get in there and how big of ones you can get. But when them fish get out in the open water of these creeks, just out in the middle, it's too easy. And when some big ones move out there, you can just sit on a big school, for a couple hours. And they're the same way. They'll move around. You just follow them around the cove and catch all you want. So, now, we're getting into the winter, obviously. So it's a good time to come down, book a trip, learn how to winter fish, whether it be Alabama rig, jerkbaits, crankbaits, the jigs. We're doing that all winter. The crappie, you can come down and crappie. Like I said, we don't have to run all over the lake. We can go to couple different piles or different areas and not have to run all over the lake and catch up a bunch of crappie. It's just a great time to come down. And
it's a great time to, we don't necessarily have to get out there at 7 o'clock in the morning. You can do, a 10 to 2 trip. Give us a call. If the weather's not not warm enough, we can make it a couple days later. So this time of year is just kind of just weather related a lot of times. That just give us a call and we can get with you and set up a day. And you know what, if it's going to be too cold, we'll do it the next day or something. So you just kind of
there's plenty of openings this time of year that we can adjust it. Just try to set up a day or watch the weather and say it looks like next week's good. As long as it's not blowing real hard, it's not bad out there. You put the right clothes on, you go out, and it's a good time. So it can be 40 degrees out there and it's really pleasant. Don't let the weather scare you off from having a really good time. So we'll try to keep you up to date, like we always say, as things change. So they haven't changed a whole lot the last several weeks, but now they're starting to change. So it's a good time to get down and get in on some different newer fishing. As far as the pattern, there's still stuff down here you can fish. We've been fishing the Angry Pirates. It's every other Tuesday. It's out of Gravois Mills ramp. It's just a blast. It's just a bunch of guys coming, having a good time. You fish all day. There's usually some refreshments afterwards. There's probably a pizza or 2 or 5 there to eat. Guys just hang out, talk, and have a good time in the middle of the winter. That's Angry Pirates. The next one is the 9th.
And the 23rd.
And the 23rd are the next ones. There's a Bass World Sports coming up on the 14th. On the 14th.
The winter bass.
I think it's the Midwest.
That's the winter bass. That's Michael Harlan's tournament that he's having out of Backwater Jacks.
Okay, there's another one out of Kaufman.
That's the 27th.
That's the 27th.
Kaufman.
So, obviously you can get on Missouri State Water Patrol, look at the regatta permits on Lake of the Ozarks, and it'll tell you every tournament that's got a permit, contact number, approximately how many boats, and obviously the ramp time. everything you need to know about it, but it gives you the contact number. You can contact whoever the tournament director is and find out more about it. So there's plenty of stuff going on in the winter. And if you don't fish tournaments and you don't want to fish tournaments, don't worry about none of that. You can just come down and fish and have a good time right now. I mean, you're going to catch fish right now. There haven't been any trouble catching fish. And, you know, right now, even in the wintertime, you may not catch quite as many, but a lot of times you can catch some really good ones, some really big ones. Like I said, there was 2 fish over 7 pounds caught this last weekend. Haven't seen a 7-pounder for quite a while. So that's going to show you in the wintertime, you know, that's when they show up. So, you know, we'd really appreciate you giving us a call and, you know, letting us take you out on the water, show you how fun the winter can be. It's very peaceful out there. There's very little boat traffic. You know, you may see a couple other fishermen out there, but
it's a layers game. You might start off with 3 layers, and then by the afternoon you're taking layers off. It's just you know, putting some extra layers on. So it's absolutely.
So either way, give me a call at 573-204-9005. Text me, call me, whatever. I'll get right back to you, and we can plan out a trip. Like I said, if you got any other questions on anything else, fishing related, not fishing related, here at the lake, you know, give me a call, and I'm gonna answer you and help you out however I can.
Yeah.
And you give Denise a call.
Yeah, give me a call at 314-226-3099.
And we'll set you up with a trip on Saturday morning on KRMS. It's the outdoor show every Saturday. Bob Rankin, Darren Kime, and
Paul Hannigan
put on what it's called the outdoor show, and it's really just a neat show. They have a lot of guests, a lot of different guests, guys that are being successful in tournaments, guys that are just out being having success fishing, not necessarily tournament fishing, just guys that go out and catch a lot of fish, whether it be crappie, bass. He talks about hunting, talks about you know, just a variety of things down here. It's just another show, another outlet to get information out down here, and that's every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on KRMS 97.1. You can log on online, listen to it on the radio. I don't care where you're at. We're down in Mexico, and we log on and listen to the show. So it doesn't matter where you're at. You can log in on that. That's every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So tune into that and hear, you know, kind of see what's going on. Maybe get some tips on variety of things. He talked about cooking wild game, you know, frying up fish, you name it. They cover everything. It's just a really neat show. So maybe tune into that if you haven't. And we'll do our best to keep you up to date on what's going on here, you know, in the wintertime. And, you know, until next time, appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you.